And we're live. We're live, and I believe this is our turn to respond. I'll start with the good stuff. You will see those circuit breakers. We'd like to move that and all the infos that go with that.
Sorry, there's a very loud machine behind me. Can you
Okay.
be a little louder?
Yeah, to the machine on whatever has to be to talk.
It is right here. It's the air. Okay. I think it's actually the air. Okay, sorry.
The air.
I'll lean in too.
At least it's not doing any high pitched squeal in the school blast.
That's great. I'm sorry
That's concerning. Okay, we're going to see on the circuit breaker. But we do have concerns about the proposal to use the money raised by the excess spending cap and putting it into a grant for lower spending schools. Because that would remove that money from the ed fund, and it would be hit at about the time that we're forecasting, $100 million to buy it down. I think we recognize that we do have a whole section in Act 73 about ramping up and ramping down, but no money to do that. And we do have that concern. And then we would like to start ramping down, starting at 114% of the excess spending, ramping it down 1% a year to 105 or go lower than 105 or till, because that's where we think the foundation formula may kick in. So either when the foundation formula hits or when we hit 105. So, and I don't know of that.
Elaborate on
Yeah,
that scale.
I can, so 105 is it's what the average district is at this year. The average district this year is spending 105% of its spending threshold.
Isn't that well below the foundation formula?
No.
Okay.
But we have some,
Okay, great.
maybe Julia is probably best to share this, but we've had some additional analysis of what the equivalent of the foundation formula is on ESP basis. Yeah, it's fine. It's probably best if Julia walked us through
Yes,
this.
you should put that up.
Yeah. And I think I said this to you last week.
Right.
I'll bump it back up. Bless you. Julie, bless you. I'm just gonna take 1 minute to just pull this up. Send it back on. It's like posting. You have to mention that, right?
Yes.
Okay. Going to consume. While I'm going to consume, I would say the background of this is, if you'll recall, the House proposal was to amend the excess spending threshold to equal the base amount created in Act 73. As we all know, Act 73, in addition to establishing the base amount, establishes different pupil weights, right, from current law. And so I was asked, rather than looking at be comparing the base amount to the excess spending threshold amount, looking at comparing how much is estimated to be spent under the foundation formula, looking at the difference in current law pupil weights and Act 73 pupil weights, and doing a different kind of analysis. So I'm going to share my screen. Just make sure I get the right thing open. Okay. So what we're looking at here, just starting up here at the top, FY26 is the data that we need to use because this is the latest year of final data analysis that we have available. But in current law, we know that we have tax capacity weights, and that's about 142,564. That's our current law weighted student count. The Act 73 pupil weights are different. They're now funding foundation formula weights. And you'll recall Act 73 also removed some weighting categories and make them into grants, which significantly decreases the number of weighted student counts into the foundation formula. So under the foundation formula in FY26, there'd be 118,458 weighted students. JFO's preliminary analysis for if the education opportunity payment and the grants for small and sparse schools created in H.955 were to be in effect in FY26, that would cost approximately $1.863 billion. So the next step that I was asked to calculate is we've got how much is estimated to cost under the EOP and the grants. We've got what the weighted pupil count is under our current formula. How much would the current weighted pupil count need to be multiplied by to reach the cost under the foundation formula?
It's the 118, that's the 13.
So it would be the so essentially the way to interpret this is our current law weighted pupil count, what we have in our current tax capacity formula, is the 142,500 students. So that weighted count multiplied by the 13,072 would get you the 1.863 billion. So if you want me to continue walking through this, or?
I have a question that's more for like Humphreys than for you, Julia. But or would you rather I wait until Julia's come?
No.
Okay. When you look at sort of that total that you're anticipating in the future, the 1.863, how do you, so the excess spending thresholds that we're sort of using in our model include spending in the transition time for special education, supplemental, for transportation. And the number you're working backwards from doesn't. So I'm just curious how you see those pieces fitting in.
They're not, I guess it's, are we doing apples or oranges?
Yeah.
To this, so. What's the difference in the end result?
So I think it's ultimately a question of policy and interpretation. What do you expect the education opportunity payment and grants to cover? What additional pieces are you planning on building around the foundation formula, the EOP, or not? Is the education opportunity payment and grants for small and sparse schools an apples to apples comparison to education spending? That's a policy decision. As Act 73 and H.955 are drafted, many of those components have not yet been sorted out.
So this one is based on what we think the future state numbers might be with the transportation and other things paid by grants was the original. And
I think
That
that's
helps.
both dependent on sort of anticipation of future state. I guess it's the time between now and the future state and what's covered that I'm concerned
And
about.
I guess this is the transition. You're working on present numbers and present funding structures. This one is based more on potential future numbers without with future weight, without transportation.
so- And I think there's two pieces. There's like policy arguments, which I can't speak to, and then there's that the numbers piece, what line 3 is capturing is this is in FY 26. If we were to do all of the people waiting using the Act 73 people weights and multiply it by the base amount established in Act 73 increased by inflation, that would give us the education opportunity payment. And we're also adding the grants that are established for small schools and sparse schools. Other pieces like transportation, because those are the pieces that you talked about. There's actually 955 has a report for transportation. I don't know if the education opportunity payment will be expected to cover transportation because that hasn't.
And special education's on top of this as well, right?
Correct.
It's a three category.
And we don't know how many smart schools will end up.
Yeah, so this is our best estimate proxies for small and sparse by necessity.
So number 2, the 118,458 long-term weighted average daily membership, that does not include any waiting for special education students.
Correct.
That's correct. Yeah, okay, yeah. It doesn't include English language learners,
Yes.
that's the way that we've done it. Okay, and poverty, and poverty.
The ones we have.
It doesn't include sparsity weighting because Act 73 no longer includes sparsity weighting.
Got it. And what are we doing with pre-K in there? Nothing, right?
Act 73 has a weight of 0.46.
0.46.
And does your counter proposal include the exemptions that you had in? So this is
No.
so this is this feels very far from meeting in the middle between our two
So
proposals.
I think, if I'm gonna chime in.
Yes.
So I think in the original presentation, I don't know if out clear what I think we are. I think what we are counter proposing, it's 114% in the current world that we are in fiscal year 28. Then that goes to 13%, 113% the year after, 112% the year after that. And additionally, we're proposing, and I think John Gray has language that we walked through this, continuing, if foundation formula does not go into effect, for it to continue to drop by a percentage point out to until, I want to say 2035, until it gets as a motivation to have the next legislature continue to look at this. Does that clarify with all your exemptions?
It's different than the numbers that are on this table, so
So
yeah.
I feel like this table might have confused the conversation, but it was.
Yeah,
to make
this,
a point.
this,
The table's not your proposal.
no.
No,
Oh!
okay, yeah,
No.
no.
Do you see how
No,
everyone might
no,
be
no,
confused about that?
okay.
No, and
Great,
The
let's
ranking-
read that, and I'm so curious what your proposal is, team.
We
Well,
also,
we got off with what? Yeah, what would be the cost, when did you? What would be the percent that would get us?
Okay, so
What
you're just
would
reframing
when-
the
yes.
conversation before you
Yeah.
deliver your proposal.
Okay, great, so it's the 1% a year down, it was somewhere around 105.
Okay,
For the implementation of the foundation.
and is there a document that shows that?
I think, John,
John, yes.
to your question, I believe we were generally accepting of removing those exemptions based on your very sound logic. And does that make sense?
yes,
So it's 114, 113, 112, 110, 109, all the way, keeps going until the foundation.
For eternity.
Down to one
that
oh
we
five.
get
Close to 105 unless the foundation takes that.
Yeah. 105, meaning,
105 of what?
yeah,
Excess spending threshold.
Excess spending, base that
Inflation
threshold is based on.
The base in
Base
current
we
law or the
educate
new
the
base we
base.
created?
Current law.
Thank,
Yeah.
okay.
2025 adjusted for inflation.
Just in
so it's not 105% of the excess spending, but it's 105% above education's.
of that FY 25 average.
Okay.
Yeah.
Hello, John Gray, I'm City Council. I will screen share. I don't know if this has been posted yet.
I just,
Oh, perfect. Try to be pretty comprehensive here, and this is something that I think the Senate conferees are seeing in statutory language for the first time. So, certainly happy to take any blame where I've gone astray. The first section is just setting out what the yields are. I think this is what we discussed on Friday. This is the Senate position, but using the most updated data. So it's just included here for reference, but isn't part of what's being suggested as an alternative position. This is the beginning of the position you were just hearing described. So excess spending penalty in FY 28. Have some clean up to the way that the language works. But here's what you were just asking, using the excess spending base of the statewide average district per pupil spending for FY 25. That's the current law excess spending base that's used. The House's position had been that 15,033 for the foundation formula base. But this is using the current law. It just is all underlined here for cleanup purposes. And the threshold itself is set at 114% in FY 28, and then would transition down to 113% in FY 29. In the Senate's current, what just came across from the Senate from the H.955, the timeline there is FY 30 for the foundation formula. So part of the sequencing here is reflecting that timeline. So that's what you see here. If there is no foundation formula, you would have this beginning in FY 2030, an annual decrease of 1 percentage point from the prior year threshold until reaching 105% of the excess spending base, which would be in the fiscal year 2037, if I counted that out correctly. And then you can see it looks a little odd. This goes effective at the same time. The statutory threshold would be set at 105% FY 30, continually effective like the foundation as an alternative to the foundation formula, but it's not withstood in the session law provision in section 8, so that until you reach the statutory provision, you're in this magical land in which there are different excess spending thresholds. And if it's clearer for folks, and this is something folks have appetite for, I can always set these out by year in FY such and such, you get this particular percentage. Other piece of the proposal, the renter credit expansion is maintained. That was the Senate position. So I'm just noting that it's included here. I don't think we need to look through this. But I've just tried to include all the text. The circuit breaker expansion, this was mentioned at the beginning, was acceded to. So you see that included here. I think I've dropped the highlighting because it's exactly as the House had proposed, that up to 50K for your income threshold and your changes to your statutory thresholds. This is the steading of the current law renter credit expansions 1 year, which we saw on Friday as well. The rest of this should look, pretty familiar. It's just trying to have the full package together. We do have to do some strange sequencing because we have something going into effect if particular conditions are met, but the opposite if they're not. And so we have the conforming changes set out if the foundation formula does go effective. It's all repealed. Yep, exactly. And there's some strange things with the dates, but it's just trying to make sure that you don't disrupt the rollout of foundation formula. If it does go into effect, I find it much easier to read the blue bracketed the effective dates than the actual effective date section, which has now become incredibly unwieldy. And you'll see we have, these are really the new ones to see. Section 14, the excess spending repeal takes effect provided the conditions under 70F, the back 73 as amended have been met. But you get the reverse. Sections 8 and 9 but decreased to under 5%, provided that any condition has not been met as of July 1, 2029, and the reverse for the ones. Anyways, oddly worded, but that's the thing. And I'm happy to explain these more. I imagine these are less interesting to folks, but just straightforward about contemplating different pathways in a bill that's what the future will do.
Does anyone, I feel like we need to talk amongst ourselves, but do you have any clarifying questions?
Yes. We're talking about the FY 25 average education spending. And so the excess is gonna be 14. The excess spending threshold is 114% above the FY 25 average education.
After
Average inflation.
adjusted for inflation with the need.
Okay, but that's my question. So you're 114 and then the next year you're 112 and 110. 113. Okay. Is this education spending also going up by inflation? This is coming down.
The base does.
The base is going up.
Yes.
And so the next year, the base has gone up, but the number, the
They're getting.
control is down to 13.
That's correct.
And the next year, the base goes up, but the control is down to 12.
Assuming there's inflation.
Right, okay.
It actually might not be a good picture.
It's not good. Okay, all right. And by that method, you're hoping to obviously get to the equilibrium point. That's where the come down is going up.
But as I just read the language, it says 114, 113, 105.
It's not withstood during the transition provision. So the 105 is codified as the permanent figure because that's the envisioned long-term position at which you arrive. That's the threshold, but the section 8, and I can pull it up again, now withstands it until FY 2037 and brings you down 1 percentage point beginning from the 113
Got
each fiscal year.
Not gonna drop to 113.
Yeah, this is the style thinking, correct?
Scott, you said something about 105 is the average.
So 105% is where my math, Julie didn't go to correct, but is the average district spending this year.
On long-term weighted average.
Yes. Half of probably or half above, we're spending about that, and half of below that.
But that would mean that half of the school districts theoretically, no, it's the average, not the median.
That's true.
Right? I mean, half of the schools would be in the excess spending threshold, right? Am I getting that wrong?
If they haven't come down by 20%. Yeah. Of course. We make, districts we have today are probably going to be the districts we have in the future, but yeah, that'll be the slope of it.
But again, are you counting the students the way you currently count them or the way you count them under the foundation?
Well,
Your average.
if the foundation fails, then we have what we have right now.
But when you calculated this average to get to 105%, were you averaging?
This year's
district
this year's education spending divided by the number of long-term
under current law.
number of weighted pupils this year. Yeah.
I would be
Current
curious
weighted
what the median is.
Yeah.
Can you see a graph of that,
Sure, there's some on the best.
What?
of this progression that you're showing? The, where we are now and how this goes down and this one goes up.
So I guess making a face like she wants.
You have a line, and there are two pressures on the line. You have 1% down, and you have inflation up.
Going up.
So whatever the result of those two vectors is. Yeah. Those are the two forces that control that line.
Right, I understand that. I would just like to see the numbers. The 14,142 or 17,742 or whatever.
Yeah.
Julie Richter, the challenge with forecasting out beyond. You can't forecast out beyond 2030 because the state economist only forecasts right up through 2030. And I'm having to come back or I'm happy to prepare something through 2030. We just can't go beyond that.
Okay, then I can understand that. I think that would be helpful because the foundation formula is not gonna be there until 29 or 30, correct, if anyone wants.
Yeah, FY30, the foundation
Yes, ma'am.
happens and this just all goes by the big time.
Right, but I would like to see the progression between now and then.
I think the goal is not to have there be the huge flip for 2030. Everybody falls off and gets very young. I've been trying to ramp them down, which also should,
So people can be upset between now and then.
they're all going to be upset between now and yes, and probably afterwards. But it would be glorious for me to.
Do you have any? I understand your concern about spending money out of the ed fund in a time when it's gonna be quite tight.
Yeah.
For those really low spending economically disadvantaged districts. Do you have any ideas of what to possibly ways to meet their needs between now and then?
I mean, if we know these three calls for ramping up and ramping down,
Yeah.
and that's property taxes, ramping up spending. That also means ramping up your property taxes, so without revenue. But I mean, this specifically says it will ramp up spending, but I can't consider why down your property taxes. And we have some discrepancies, not all low spending towns are for,
Yeah, absolutely.
and if within districts, not all towns are the same economic status. And we have 4 towns that are spending on education.
My district is one of them.
Yeah, and I have one where one town in the district that's poor voted for the budget and the section that is rich or richer did not. No.
And I'm just worried about those kids between now and 2030. And I know that's a reason to move fast on the foundation formula, but I don't know if that.
Well, we still gotta ramp up and ramp down, we've gotta find a way. To equalize
If the,
salaries.
some of the high spending districts react to the threshold coming down, that creates more tax capacity for everyone doing those low spending.
Hypothetically.
Yeah.
Okay.
And then the exemption for school construction spending, I didn't see that in that.
We took it out. Okay. Yeah.
It was needed the,
Those exemptions that we had.
There's something in the school and 955 that deals with legacy debt, but not in terms of excess spending in between.
Yeah, I didn't see that piece in the language. Was that in there, John, the legacy debt? Is that,
It's in the school.
It's 955 in school construction.
Yeah.
it's over there, that.
but it's also. I mean, the existing exemption is still in here.
Yeah, so this language doesn't speak to what we were talking about on Friday, the extension to January 1, 2025 but the existing law is the July 1, 2024. That's just current law.
And you get that there.
This proposal doesn't really speak to that, as I guess the way.
So are you sticking to, does your proposal stick to current law on the school construction? Or does it stick to current law and change it 6 months, or did you not discuss that?
We have not, I
Okay.
mean, there is a whole school construction section in this 5,
Yes.
which would have it deals with some legacy debt and, but that's not current law.
No, and so have you changed current
I won't speak for the recoveries, but I will say is I sensed a general agreement that if we exempted all future bonding and then those that are valid concerns, that it could create behaviors where people might just start bonding for things that would not necessarily be within the interest of our consolidation schemes. I think we left it as open question whether or not to just move the date for Colchester or if we wanted to bring it all the way up until this year, just to acknowledge the bonds that have been passed if that's done, that's behind us. And so for the sake of we accept everything before. I don't think we have time today. We were
Okay, great.
on Bill. It's
Okay.
very busy.
Yeah, it's been
So
very busy.
I don't think we have a position on
Okay, great.
Just wanted to make sure,
Yeah, okay.
that's not something you didn't drop it by intentional omission,
just been a busy day.
if you know what I mean.
Thanks. We will talk amongst ourselves and, when can we meet tomorrow?
We were on the floor at 10. And we saw how well today, we did getting off by 4, today we probably have said we're gonna. I think he's looking at maybe a hard stop at 4:30
Tomorrow?
tomorrow.
I wonder if we want to try a midday, is your floor starting in at 1?
At noon too, we're noon to 2. And
So why don't we try for 1? Does that sound
Okay.
doable?
that should work.
Okay, let's do that.
Okay.
Thank you. I think that works for us.
We need to do miscellaneous at some point.
Yes, we do.
True.
The T-bill just signed.
So they just
Great.
if they sign it, okay, well, that's. Went back down.
Yeah, capital bill closed, the T-bill closed, we are making progress. Yeah,
Okay.
okay.
They didn't put a $50 million.
No, they did not.
Good, yeah, I think you would have been some alarm bells.